We weird and what? What was I gonna start with? What the fuck? We're weird and what I was trying to say was is we're living in some weird times. Getting rid of Arkham asylums, people putting mayonnaise on their hot dogs and not being instantly sent to the gulag. People saying that blow up dolls are nasty, but when it comes to actual AI intelligent robots, that's a different story. But what if I could tell you that we have the technology of telekinesis? And, hear me out for a minute. At some point in our lifespan, we're gonna be able to bust a nut while also playing a video game, while also eating a chalupa from Taco Bell. Gentlemen, we're not gonna need women ever again. Because with the people over there at the Neuralink, they're doing stuff that no man's never done before. Now, I think most of us all seen the guy that was paralyzed and be able to play like Mario Kart with his mind, which was already crazy to begin with. But just to explain what a Neuralink is, it's basically a tiny little chip that's the size of a quarter that goes into your brain and could actually read your brainwaves. So it could take your brainwaves and then transfer that into like computer data or like a computer action, right? So you could technically, at this point, if you have one of these things, like in your brain right now, you would be able to turn the lights off with Alexa. Excuse me. I mean, you will be able to turn off the lights with Alexa with your own mind without having to say a single word, without having to move a single muscle, which I think is completely insane. Alright, I thought it was insane when they put in that one guy and he was sitting there playing Mario Kart, alright? That's when my head was like, I mean, I'm serious, it was like brain jizz everywhere, like that, that's like some fucking, that's like something you would see like in a sci-fi book or something. But with the ultimate power of the Neuralink, you'll be able to do that at some point. Now, the Neuralink is very, 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 very early technology, and we don't really know how it's gonna, like, affect with people's skulls and shit. Now, the main purpose of the Neuralink was to mainly help people with with disabilities, like people who are paralyzed from the waist down, they can't speak, they can't see, etc., etc. There's only been 21 people who have basically signed up to have this Neuralink in their brain, which was a guy named Nolan Agbar. One of these 21 advocates was a guy named Nolan Agbar. This is the guy who was like playing Mario Kart with his mind, which I'm not gonna lie, as a gamer, that was very cool to see. And the guy we're gonna be talking about today is a guy named Kenneth, which it's a guy who is suffering through ALS, which stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I hope I got that right. That would be like a absolute 360 no scope if I got that. So my rough understanding about it is your brain connects into your arms, your legs, you swallowing, talking, blinking, etc., etc. What happens is when you have like ALS, it pretty much like I guess like corrupts or like severs that connection that goes into the thing, which makes it harder for you to speak, swallow, move your arms, legs, etc. The best analogy I can give for ALS is it's kind of like you take your phone charger, you plug it in the wall and you're bound to plug up your phone charger cord, right? But then when you look at your USB-C cord, it's like barely hanging on. You can see the wire through it, like it's barely hanging on. But for some reason it still keeps charging. But after a while and after so much use, it just keeps going down and down and down until it just loses connection. And then you have a charger cord that just doesn't deliver the connection. That's my rough understanding on what ALS is, and is the reason why Keno's voice is slowly just deteriorating. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the clip where his voice is just completely going out.
I noticed that when I tried to pick things up upside down, I would fall over.
It just wasn't normal. And during COVID is when we noticed his voice starting to change. In January of 2024, we received the news that Ken had ALS. I remember feeling kind of the whole weight of the world, and it was really scary. I had already lost a husband. I think Ken was worried that he was going to leave me alone again. And that was hard for him.
I like to God like to be able to go and do things. I can't even go shopping anymore. And I can't get help lots of the time because people don't understand my speech. It's really frustrating.
It's not only just the muscles not working, but it's the fatigue. You don't realize how much energy it takes to talk until you don't have that energy to waste. And it really takes away independence. Our house got really quiet. It's the silence that comes with ALS. Was kind of one of the things I didn't realize when it started was going to be one of the things I noticed the most.
So, pretty much Kenneth's voice is absolutely cooked. It's also just very sad to see when people are diagnosed with like ALS or just any disease really, and being like, okay, is there a cure out there that can help me? And then they realize there's really no remedy or no solution to fix this problem. But it's also even more sad to see this happen to a fellow gamer. This guy is an absolute gamer. This is a straight up man who sits down at the end of the day and plays Doom: The Dark Ages. But, you know, in all seriousness, this is kind of similar to what happened to my great-great-grandfather. My mother had a grandfather in West Virginia who had cancer, and the cancer was on top of his like voice box, right, or his vocal cords, right? And so the only thing they could do to keep the cancer from spreading was to take out his vocal cords. But see, knowing he had no way to communicate because they took his vocal cords out, there was no way for him to actually communicate. So he comes out of the hospital with a hole in his neck and then like a voice box in his hand. And so every time when he wants to communicate, he takes this little device and he puts it up to his neck, and then he goes like this and he talks like this, and you know, and it vibrates like the muscles in there to kind of create sound. I would sit there and like show him like my art, and like he would like take his voice box and talk to me, and I would just never understood what he said because it was just so low and it was just so hard to kind of follow. And to this day I still don't really know what he sounded like before he, you know, he got cancer and like had his vocal cords, you know, taken out. I've only known him when he talked like this with the voice box, you know what I mean? And it does suck. And you know, I completely understand when Kenneth says it's frustrating when he has to speak, mainly because he's probably gotta like say it over and over again just to get someone to listen, or like he's gotta explain what's wrong with him, you know what I mean? It's gotta be annoying. And it's probably similar and probably to the same shit that my great-great-grandfather had to deal with. But anyway, thanks to the Neuralink, they actually have some kind of solution for ALS. Their new solution to fix ALS is basically your brain is still sending that signal to your, you know, to your vocal cords and all that stuff, right? But there's nowhere to like actually connect it. It goes back to what I was talking about with like the charging cord. You know, if there's no way to get that signal across, it's not going to work. So what they're going to do now is they're going to send that signal to the Neuralink. The Neuralink's going to collect that data and it's going to send it to a computer. And then that computer will play a sound. And like, knowing we've gotten to the point of like AI being really good, they could basically have it play his original voice, because they have like recordings of his voice before it like messed up. So not only it's going to be his OG voice, but he's going to be able to talk cleaner, and like it's going to be a lot more easier on him, especially, well, you know, going through like ALS. But anyway, he finally gets the Neuralink, and like they're training him on like how to use the Neuralink, how to charge the Neuralink, and you know, like be able to speak through it, right? And then once he like figures it out, he's able to just speak what he wants through like the Neuralink that goes into the computer that basically says what he wants, right? And it's just absolutely amazing, and you just gotta look at this.
I am the very model of a modern major general.
Neuralink has given us not only Ken's voice back, but it's really given us a boost. It's given us the chance for Ken to kind of be a pioneer. What excited me, they fired it up and he told me that he loved me. In OG Ken voice. So emotional for me to hear it the way I heard it on the phone all those years ago. Yeah, something else.
I am finally able to talk to you.
We're going to continue advancing the quality of the sensors, the number of the sensors. We want to build a system that goes directly from the brain to voice in real time.
Nothing has given me a purpose. We work together to make this thing better. Maybe I can't cure illness, but I can participate in research and can give feedback. It will give us back a voice. And the voice is a very important thing to have. It would be a total waste of who I am if I didn't do all the good you we do. Before I take out, go to be with the Lord. And that's the number one reason I'm doing this. Because I'm doing good for others. And that is the best thing of all.
You are the captain of your own ship. Make the most of what you're given in life.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was the legend known as Kenneth. And you gotta give him some absolute credit though, cause like, man, I mean, 100 different things could have happened. I mean, he could have went through surgery and been more fucked up as he was, or he could have died, you know. The fact that he's just doing this just for the betterment of, like, everybody else is, like, some real, you know, some motivational fuel, you know what I mean? If you guys go check out the video, make sure to give it a like. It's honestly amazing that we've come this far with it. And I know it's kind of sketchy a little bit because the whole idea of putting a chip in your brain and all that, you know, I can already hear my mother saying that it's the spawn of Satan. But, I mean, the fact is this is giving people their voice back. This is giving back to people who are disabled their independence back. And then you have Nolan and Kenneth, who are like the pioneers of this vessel. And, you know, of course, you know, you have like the whole team of Neuralink that's one to do this. But if it wasn't for Nolan and like Kenneth like signing up just like that, there would be like no data or nothing to test on for it to get any better. So, you know, it's very cool to see when people come together and they work together and they make something absolutely great. And I'm just like 100% down to see it. But that's pretty much it. Like, comment, subscribe, skilly boppity boop. I'm out.